Yo, have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast, Ohio State Buckeye Football Edition. Today, we're going to be reviewing the very first game the Buckeyes had this year against the Minnesota Golden Gophers and previewing our next game this week coming up and talking about some other things that we saw in college football. So we got our man, the captain, Byron Mitchell. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's always a good feeling after a Buckeye win.
Hey, spoilers. If you didn't know, the Buckeyes did win on Thursday, 45-31, and it honestly was not smooth sailing. That score I tweeted out after the game, the score doesn't show really how close this game actually was. I know it came out 2 touchdown winners, but Byron, that was a close one for us Buckeye fans out there.
It was very close. After the first half, I think Minnesota was up 14-10.
Mm-hmm.
But Ohio State has always been like a second half team for like the last 10 plus years. So we just got into gear in the second half. And that was good to see that CJ Stroud was able to calm down, get those opening jitters away, and just lead the Buckeyes to victory.
Yeah, so let's talk about it, quarter by quarter scoring drives, things like that, things we liked, things we didn't like, and then let's just go from there. So Byron, like you said, first half we were down 14-10. In the first quarter, Ohio State, we scored in 5 plays, 92 yards and under, a minute 42 with a Mayan Williams 71-yard run. And that Mayan Williams run, I was just like, this is the running back group we got over here. And Master Teague, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be the starter going forward, man. We got some dogs in that running back.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the starter. He only had 6 carries for 29 yards. It was basically the Mayan Williams show. He had 9 carries for 125 yards. Like you said, that long one for 71 yards for a touchdown. He'll probably be second string maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Mayan Williams had the 9 carries for 125. We also had later on Travion Henderson. He had that 70-yard pass from CJ in the fourth quarter. But then we had the field goal by Noah Ruggles. But then Minnesota is on their own side of the field, and they go for it on 4th down. Byron, were you shocked by that? Because if they don't get that, we're going to score, and then the game's really over.
I was highly shocked by that. That Minnesota running back, Muhammad Ibrahim, he's a great running back. Just capped it off for 56 yards. I think they would later score a touchdown on that drive. But that 4th and 1 basically changed the game for Minnesota.
And for us too. I mean, we answered back with the Garrett Wilson 56-yard touchdown, but then they also answered, actually, the Garrett Wilson thing was in the third quarter. My apologies. But after they got the touchdown, when they went for it on 4th down, they get it right back with Muhammad Ibrahim. He gets a touchdown because CJ Stroud throws that pick. And when we went into halftime 14-10 them, what were your thoughts?
I was super nervous because I don't know what, halftime adjustments we would make. What is Ryan Day saying to the players? How are they calming, CJ Stroud down? And we haven't been down. I can't remember the last time we were down at a half against Alabama. But I was highly nervous.
Yeah, that first half, man, I know we were all talking. CJ Stroud was missing a lot of throws early.
Yeah, a lot of him, like those deep throws, were just overthrown. The interception was behind Olave's back. Olave tried to get it one handed, which would have been an amazing catch if he actually did, but it bounced off his fingertips into the Minnesota, I think it was the linebacker's hands. But just a lot of missed passes.
Yeah, and I know PJ said he was going to make the Ohio State's coaches coach. And what for people who are like, what do they mean? Like they are coaches. What he means by that is that typically when a team like Ohio State is playing a team not as talented as them, they're usually up 28-35-0 in the first half so that they really don't have to do anything in the second half. They're not sweating. They're not like actually formulating game plans going forward. That's down 14-10. First game, national television, Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt. We're like, all right, he's making us coach because if we don't come out correct in the second half, we're going to be the talk all Friday about how we just lost Minnesota. So we come out in the third quarter. We go boom, 7 plays, 81 yards. Chris Olave, he got the 38-yard pass. But then they answered right back on a 5-play, 75-yard drive by Minnesota. Mohamed Ibrahim had another touchdown. And then we answered literally right back with a 1-play, 56-yard bomb from CJ to Garrett Wilson. So we went back and forth. And Byron, I feel like in the third quarter, what changed the game for us was the 2 plays. We had the Haskell Garrett, the fumble return. I felt like that really changed the game for us when we got that. And honestly, which I don't like the second reason because I hate winning like that. When Mohamed Ibrahim went down, I don't know. Like, I don't know what would have happened if he stayed, man. I really don't.
Yeah, he was running all over us. He ended up having, I think, 163 yards. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 163 yards off of 30 carries.
2 touchdowns, no fumbles.
No fumbles. That long one for 56. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was running all over us. So if he had stayed in the game, it probably might have been a different outcome. But like you said, we don't like to see players get injured. So I hope he has a speedy recovery. But yeah, that play and then the Haskell Garrett strip sack by Malik Harrison and then just bouncing up into Haskell Garrett's hands was, I think that got us back, like gave us that spark that we needed.
Yeah, because when Ibrahim went down, I was just like, oh, that's it. Because Minnesota just lost all that momentum. Their best player just went down. Like, I was like, and when he came out in the walking boot, I'm like, oh, he's really gone. Because I was just like, that's it. And because he was like, when we scored, you could give it to him. He can control the tempo. I mean, Minnesota played as well as you could. And if Ibrahim did not get hurt, we could have been looking at a 1-score win or potentially a loss. Like if they would have gotten another turnover. But man, we just came out. And we were just scoring in bombs. Like they were just quick ones. Like Ryan Day, man, he, like you said, what was he saying at halftime? He formulated the game plan, got CJ Stroud more comfortable. And then he was getting wide open. The 2 best wide receivers in the country, wide open. Like he was scheming them to be wide freaking open. So that helped it out. Then the fourth quarter, Minnesota's still fighting. They get a field goal. And it's when they get that field goal to start the fourth, it's 31-24. Like this is still a
one-score game.
One-score game, but then TreVeyon Henderson had a 70-yard touchdown pass from CJ. And then Bryce Williams. So when he scored, it was 38-24. And then Bryce Williams, he had a 2-yard. Again, man, they are still fighting. Like it's 38-31. Minnesota just needs to stop. But Ohio State said no. 2 plays, 75 yards, under a minute. Chris Olave, 67.
Chris Olave, CO2.
61-yard touchdown pass. And then we win the game 45-31. Minnesota doesn't have much left. I mean, Minnesota played as hard as they could. I think they're going to be a good team going forward. And depending on when Ibrahim comes back and depending on how it goes by, we might see them again.
We might see them in that Big Ten championship.
Which not good. I mean, if Ibrahim's fully healthy, that I mean, we're going to be different, but they're going to be different. It's going to be very interesting, potentially, if we just saw the Big Ten championship preview.
Yeah, I mean, if they make it, I think it'll be a great rematch to see, you know, how PJ Fleck changes his offense or what he does differently, you know, see what we do differently, especially with the CJ Stroud that has played the whole season, you know, see what he does. Because he ended up with like 294 pass yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, 294. He was 13 for 22, 294, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. And you read those stats, you're like, oh man, that's really great. But like us watching the whole game and doing the podcast, you're like, most of that came in the second half.
Yep.
Like most of it came in the second half. And if you just look at and then we already talked about Williams. Olave had 4 catches, 117, 2 touchdowns. We already talked about Ibrahim. Their quarterback, Morgan, man, he did not play bad. 14 for 25, 205, 1 touchdown. No mistakes, really. Like,
yeah,
Minnesota did everything they could to like win this game. It just came down to we're just more talented than them at this point.
Yeah, that offense looked, you know, outside. Well, when CJ Stroud got together, our offense looked great. Our running back game looked great from the start. Like I said, I think it was that defensive, you know, touchdown that, like I said, gave us a spark because Minnesota probably would have scored on that drive if we.
You know what? I know that's wild. If we didn't get that, they probably would have scored. Because let's go into things you liked, Byron, and then I know that if we're talking about Minnesota would have scored if they would have got that. If we didn't get that pick, it's going to be something you didn't like. But things you liked about the Buckeyes.
Love our wide receivers, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. Like you said, two top receivers. Chris Olave literally had 4 catches and 2 of them for touchdowns. That is highly impressive. Highly impressive. So I'm loving our wide receivers. Like that, Maya Williams looked great, 125 yards. I'm excited to see what our running game does this season. So there's a couple of things I liked.
Anything else you liked?
Once CJ Stroud got it together, he looked comfortable and looked great. Anxious to see what he does.
What are things you didn't like about game 1?
Our defense is suspect. Mm-hmm. Like we have flashes of greatness, like that strip sack to the fumble. We had a couple interceptions. One of them got returned because of defensive pass interference. So our defense is suspect. I know we have 3 new young linebackers. So that, you know, that doesn't help. I know Sevyn Banks were hurt, and I think another starter or cornerback was hurt. So I don't think we saw our full potential on defense. There's a lot of areas on defense that we need to work on because there's a lot of defensive pass interference on our side. So we need to work on that.
Yeah, man, I'm with you because this line, Zach Harrison and those guys, they were supposed to be the strength of this defense. And just looking at rushing, Minnesota had 203 yards on the ground. And 163 of that came from Ibrahim. So if Ibrahim plays the whole game, he's probably a 200-yard rusher.
He is. I think the last time we played him, he had almost 200 yards or something like that.
On the ground. So yeah. I think the middle linebackers, I know we talked about in the preview, we really need to see someone step up and be that lead middle linebacker. And even Morgan, I felt like there was a point where they were hitting every slant. Like, I'm like, where are our corners at? Like, I know we talked and we were ranked the 125th, like passing defense last year. Is just, again, we have more talent than everyone else in the Big Ten. But when talent is equal, besides the Clemson, you saw what happened to us in Alabama. So I don't know, man. I feel like we haven't had a lockdown quarter since Okudah.
Yeah,
because Shaun Wade was supposed to be that lockdown corner last year. That was not the case. So like, I feel like our corners, I don't know what's going on over there, man. Because we had such a thing from like Lattimore and all of them to now recently, our secondary has not been solid.
They have not, and it's surprising to see because we've been spoiled with some really good cornerbacks over the last couple of years outside of Sean Wade, who should have stuck as a safety. But that's a whole different other conversation. But yeah, our secondary needs to get it together because, man, we have some games ahead of us.
Like, just think of this from Minnesota. Minnesota had 408 total yards. They had 24 first downs to our 17. Time of possession, they had the ball 38 minutes, 41 seconds. OSU 21 minutes, 19 seconds. And they lost the game. Like, they did everything they were supposed to do. They controlled the ball. They had more first downs. They just didn't have, like, the Ibrahim and not have, they just didn't have enough talent, man, because anytime we touched it, 45 seconds, boom, score.
That's our offense. That's our bread and butter. Big plays here and there. I mean, we did what we had to do. Like, Minnesota is a great team. No knock against them. They had us on the ropes for pretty much the entire game. But just, I don't know, maybe our wide receivers. I mean, well, the guy had almost 200 yards passing.
Yeah, he did. Tanner Morgan had 205. I mean,
205. Yep.
Yeah, we just had 500 yards, almost 500 yards total offense. And also with shout out to Garrett Wilson, too, because we said Olave had the 4 catches for 2 TDs. Garrett Wilson had the 5 catches for 80 yards for 1 TD. But also, Byron, my other thing is that since it was his first game, he was getting comfortable. I feel like we weren't completing any passes if they weren't going to those two. Like, we have that big, super omega wide receiver group at Ohio State, and none of those other young pups got used.
I believe Jackson. So we had the one pass to TreVeyon Henderson.
That's true.
I think Njigba caught a pass, and I think our tight end
2 for 12. Rucker needs to get more passes, bro.
Yeah, he only had 1.
That ain't good enough. Like, that dude's an all-star tight end. Like, you're right. TreVeyon Henderson, he did have the 1 for 70. But if it really wasn't going to Wilson or Olave, just something.
Yeah. And it's probably just him, like, getting comfortable. So you want to throw it to your 2 best, members on the field. So hopefully as, he progresses throughout the season, as he gets more comfortable with our offense, we'll see other wide receivers step up.
Yeah, man. And I mean, it's the typical Ohio State fan thing. We won by 14, but watching the whole game and really analyzing, you're just like, we have a lot to improve on, which is scary for the rest of the Big Ten. Because if we beat a team like Minnesota, who's good by 14, and we have a lot of stuff that needs to be improved on, that's scary for the rest of the league.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what others could do, man.
So we get that win Thursday night. I mean, it's funny too how some people were talking about we struggle, this and that, and especially at halftime, Ohio State fans are so fidgety. They're like, yeah, take Stroud out. I was just like, he's 19. He's never thrown a college pass. Like, hold on.
Like, this is his first game starting. Like, last season, he, came in as relief for Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't had, like, the starter game experience. So I think this was a great test for him. Like you said, he's 19. He'll get it.
Right. So that's it with the OSU Minnesota. Again, we win 45-31 scoring. First quarter, we're up 7-0. By halftime, we're down 14-10. We scored 21 in the third and 14 in the fourth. That is the difference in the game right there. That third quarter where we scored 21 and Minnesota scored 7. That is literally where the difference was made. Coming Ryan Day, adjustments at a halftime. We got 14 more points than them, and we won by 14. Byron, before we preview OSU's next game, what other game caught your eye over the weekend in this first weekend of college football, which is still going on since it's Labor Day weekend?
Yep, we got a game tonight. I think it's Notre Dame and Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot who plays tomorrow. But there were some great college games yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
After the first game I watched was Penn State and Wisconsin. That was a defensive battle.
Mm-hmm.
They were in a war yesterday, and Penn State came out on top.
I felt like that was the game of the week.
Yeah, that highly. If you guys didn't watch it, watch a replay because that is old school Big Ten football, just a real defensive battle, low scoring. I forgot what the final score was, but that was a good game. And the other game that was great
It
to
was
watch
16,
was
16-10.
16-10. Yep, 16-10. Penn State missed a couple of scoring opportunities, so it could have been higher, but great game to watch. The Clemson Georgia game was good as well. Did not expect Georgia to come out and beat a Clemson like that because usually they're not good against top 5 opponents, but they came and did what they had to do. They'll probably, like you said, they'll probably be ranked number 2 in our group chat. So that was a good game. And the upset that I was not expecting Indiana to lose the way they did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They got embarrassed by Iowa.
No, you're right, man. I wasn't expecting that either, and it was just like, oof, that. But Iowa's been getting talk about all year that they're going to be a really good team.
They came out and proved that yesterday.
And Indiana did have a lot of mishaps, so I'm trying to see if the new AP top thing is coming because I believe Georgia will be number 1. I mean, Georgia will be number 2, and after their win, because and you're saying why would they go to number 2 when they were at 5? Well, they're not going to put us high. We might go to 3 or we might still be at 4 because Oklahoma, man. I thought we were about to have the upset of the year for a split second. I mean,
it was looking like it.
Tulane was doing well. Then Oklahoma started blowing them out. And then it was a 1-possession game in the fourth quarter. And it was 4th and 14. And Tulane just couldn't get it. And Spencer Rattler, who was already the prohibited Heisman favorite to start the season, came out with 2 picks that game. So it's and Oklahoma is picked by a lot. They're a trendy pick to win the national title this year. So I don't know. That wasn't a good start for them. They got the W, though.
Yep, only winning by 5. I think the final score is 40-35. Mm-hmm. I mean, I to pick win the championship and you struggle against Tulane. It's not a good look.
No, and now with Clemson, who took their first loss of the season, and North Carolina, who's on the other side of the ACC, lost to Virginia Tech. So you basically have and Miami lost to Alabama. So you basically have all the top ACC teams all taking L's. And I know it's super early in the season, but right now, if the playoffs started, there'd be no ACC teams in.
There would not be.
So they're going to need chaos or someone else to get better because right now the ACC's out.
For now they're out, but like I said,
for now,
chaos can ensue, and still got a whole season of football left.
Byron, man, speaking of a whole season of football, we got a big one this Saturday coming up on actually the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. Actually, we got Oregon coming to Columbus. This is huge. Oregon also was a team where they were blowing out Fresno State, and Fresno State made it a 1-possession game, and Oregon came out on top 31-24. And Byron, you were the first to share with us that Oregon's best player, the favorite to be the number 1 draft pick in this year's NFL draft, got injured and was in a walking boot at the end of the game. Byron, you want to talk a little bit about that?
I forget his name, but Mel Kiper was saying that he is probably going to be the number 1 draft pick, which is wild because I can't remember the last time a defensive back went number 1.
Well, you could have made it Chase Young could have went number 1.
Chase Young. That's true. Chase Young could have.
And it's Kayvon Thibodeaux. Well,
yeah, Thibodeaux.
Yeah.
Kayvon Thibodeaux. So that's a huge loss for Oregon going against a game Ohio State. So we'll see how that impacts their defense. See who steps up in his place, and their losses. Rattle us.
Yeah, man. At least they won. They won. So they'll probably maybe go up a spot. I don't know if they'll even go up a spot. Maybe they'll stay at 11. I feel like for ratings purposes, the AP is going to make them a top 10 team. And
Probably
they're going to be coming into Columbus, man, and this is going to be.
Well, they'll probably move to 11 because UNC was 10.
Oh,
we moved to 10 because UNC was at 10 and they lost.
That's true. And this is going to be the biggest game we play for a long time until we get to late October and November. So, Byron, man, how are you feeling about this game? Like, what are you expecting from both teams? This is a noon kickoff. It's big noon kickoff again at Falk. So we've had 2 out of the first 3 with Thursday night and then this Saturday coming up. This is huge, man, because the world's going to be watching.
Yes. First off, just looking at their stats from yesterday, Oregon had 186 rushing yards as a team. So that, makes me nervous because we just gave up over 200 rushing yards against Minnesota. So that's right off the bat. That's what makes me nervous. Their quarterback is a mobile quarterback because he had 16 rushes for 56 yards and a touchdown. And he had 172 passing yards yesterday and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So their run game makes me nervous just right off the bat looking at their stat.
Yeah, I would. Obviously, because my concern obviously be what's the passing attack looking like because of our secondary? Because you already know our secondary and our linebackers are probably hearing all the chatter this week about everyone talking about like, hey, y'all need to improve. And so I feel like they're going to come out and really trying to show they've improved in a week because this is going to Oregon's not going to be a pushover, man. Some people have them coming out the Pac-12, potentially making the playoffs. So, but for them to make the playoffs, they have to beat Ohio State. So
that's true. The Ohio State is probably one of their biggest games this season. But you beat Ohio State, you can pretty much beat anyone.
Now, I will say this, though. If the unfortunate thing is if Ohio State does lose, Byron, where do you think that would put our playoff chances?
I'm not going to say, man, that's tough because we would probably need chaos as well because we'll probably drop to 6 or 7, maybe number 8 if we lose. Mm-hmm. So we'll need a lot of chaos to happen up top for us to make it in there.
Yeah, I feel like now that we've got the first start out of the way for CJ, he's going to be more comfortable because now he's not in the hostile environment of what Minnesota was because that place was rocking. Thursday night, fans, everything. That stuff matters in college football. It might not matter as much in the NFL because they're professionals, but that really matters in college football. So now he's going to get to play his first home game in Columbus. That Columbus crowd is going to be rocking.
Yes, we are.
Oregon might not be able to hear their play calls because this is going to be our first game with full fans in over a year. So my biggest thing with Ohio State is don't keep the fans in the game. Like don't get blown out first off, because then the fans will really be out of the game. Or don't make mistakes that the fans just stop like cheering and all that stuff. Because once an away team starts to think of it as like a home game for them, then you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, it's dangerous if you can't keep the crowd in there. Us Buckeye fans, we love to be loud, so that stadium will be rocking.
Yeah, we're gonna see how Oregon deals with our big plays because we can score quick, and we're gonna see if Oregon was looking ahead at the end of that Fresno State game. If Javion comes back, I hope the offensive line can block him because that's going to be very problematic. And Oregon's going to be amped because I know there's some people picking them to win, but right now ESPN's matchup predictor, take it for what it's worth, they have OSU with like an 87.8 chance of winning this game. So this is Oregon's season. I wouldn't say this as much as, we need to win, but I think we'd be able to survive if we lost to Oregon and then Oregon went on to win the Pac-12. Now, if we lost to Oregon and then they stunk the rest of the year, then we might have some problems.
Yeah, so if we do lose, we need Oregon to run the table in the Pac-12
And I know
and win
people,
the Pac-12 championship.
and I know people are like, man, why are you guys thinking about that so early? I mean, you got to think of these things with a big matchup because just thinking from right now, if the ACC is out, right? Let's just say ACC is out, and I mean, for what it's worth, I guess Oklahoma. So the Oklahoma takes their spot. So Big 12 would be in. If right now we got Penn State, they got a defense. So, but let's just say we win the Big 10. So that's us, the SEC champ. Okay. And then if Notre Dame runs the table or Cincinnati runs the table, maybe one of them gets in, yada yada. The reason now, and this is if we go undefeated. Now, though, if we lose this game to Oregon, and guys, before you go crazy, this has literally happened to us before. If we lose this game to Oregon, and let's say Georgia wins the SEC, and they beat Alabama, and that's Alabama's one loss, who do y'all think they're putting in? A one-loss Alabama or a one-loss Ohio State? And if you say us, guys, it's literally happened to us before. And Alabama went on to win that championship. That was Tua's freshman year. So we want to take that's why we got to take it out of their hands.
We have to control our own destiny.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. Because if you put two SEC teams and then a Big 12 team, and then if the Pac-12, if Oregon beats us, runs the table, we're out.
Yep.
That's simple. If Oklahoma goes undefeated, Oregon beats us, go undefeated. Georgia goes undefeated. Alabama loses one game. Alabama's getting in over a one-loss Ohio State team. Point blank, period. That's why you think of these. That's why you love college football, because every game freaking matters.
Every game matters.
Yeah, because I mean, we were here. I remember that group mess. We were just like, man, bro, we're not getting in. We're not getting in.
We all knew it. I know there were some fans hoping we would jump Alabama, but we weren't jumping Alabama.
No, we weren't getting in. And Alabama rewarded them by winning the freaking championship and beating Georgia.
Yep. Man, Georgia should have won that game.
Tua to Devontae Smith, overtime to win. What a time.
What? Georgia.
Byron, what do you think the final score is going to be before we sign off, man?
Ooh, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to say we scored 45, they scored 31. I'm going to say 42-35. Ohio State.
You got a one
possession.
I think I'm going to go a little lower than you if he doesn't. JV, I'm going to go 42-28.
Okay.
Just a little bit lower than you. Ohio State, I do feel like we're just going to score too quick, and then Oregon's going to have to play catch up, and that's going to lead them to some mistakes.
Yeah.
And so I like anything else, Byron, before we sign off on our first Buckeye review of the year?
I think we covered all the important games. Covered Ohio State. Can't think of anything else. Oh, Michigan dominated yesterday.
I didn't even remember they played. I really did it. That's the crazy thing. I was so glued to Penn State, Wisconsin, and Iowa, Indiana. I really forgot Michigan was in the Big Ten, let alone playing. So
always got to keep an eye on Michigan, man. Like Jim Harbaugh said, we're going to beat our rivals or die trying.
We're going to see. We're going to see. I think we have one of
them. Also, Michigan State's running back went off. Yeah, like 230-something yards and 4 touchdowns.
That's he that is right. He did. Let's see if we can get him. I know you instantly said that ain't good for us.
No, because we played them right our second to last game. And if they're rushing 230 yards on people, that's not good for our defense, our current defense.
Yeah, and it wasn't even against it was against Northwestern. Big Ten West last year champs.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a game that flew under the radar for me because Michigan State is still super rebuilding on that. So it was just like, but I am trying to get to the stats for that game for y'all. because that was impressive. Was it Kenneth Walker? Yeah, Kenneth Walker, 23 carries, 264 yards, 4 touchdowns on a Pat Fitzgerald defense.
That is highly impressive.
Yeah, that's a junior. So we'll see how Michigan State is. If Michigan State is good, then they'll have some cause for concern because you know Michigan State has messed us up in the past before.
Yes, they have.
So we'll keep eyes on that. That was the first thing you're like, man, that ain't good for us. But now, Byron, closing things before we sign off, man.
I am happy Buckeye football is back. I'm actually happy that NCAA football back. I just love watching games all day yesterday. It was such a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think the only thing is ditto all the things you said, but I can't wait for this day on Saturday to see the horseshoe filled up.
Yes.
That's going to be something very special, seeing that place. I mean, this is the games that kids want to come to Ohio State. You got a big game against a big opponent, national implications. You're at noon. You're one of the first games. You got big noon kickoff there. It's going to be a good time. And also, side note, we did forget about another. I mean, there's some upsets, but LSU going down to UCLA. So,
yep, I actually watched like the last quarter of that yesterday. It was UCLA looked good.
Yeah,
we'll see if LSU can bounce back.
We'll see. Well, with that being said, thank you guys for listening to the L7C podcast. Me and Byron both have the Buckeyes coming out on top this Saturday at Columbus, Ohio, against the Oregon Ducks. And yes, we did not mention this team because we don't want to think about them till later on. We did see what Alabama did to Miami.
Yes, we did. Always got to keep an eye on Bama and Clemson.
Absolutely. But now we'll see what we have to do with Clemson. It might be some other people we keep an eye. It might be Georgia now because that defensive line was showing us things.
Oh, yeah.
But with that being said, thank you guys for listening to the L7C podcast. You guys take care and go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.